Hello everyone, Raven of the Retro Dev here, and in this video we are going to look at installing FreeDOS inside of 86box. Now what 86box is, as the description there says, it's a low-level emulator, so you can think of DOSBox as a bit more. DOSBox will take some shortcuts and tries to emulate stuff fairly well, and for the most part, honestly, DOSBox is incredible. Um, but there are some things that necessarily may or may not work. Like FreeBasic, for example, tends to crash upon exiting and locking up DOSBox because its DOS extender doesn't seem to like DOSBox at all. But an 86box works fine. So you do run into odd issues like that from time to time, and maybe in the future it won't. Plus, honestly, it's also just really, really cool to use something like that. So just go ahead and download the stable, and the links for all this stuff is in the description along with the forum if you run into any issues. And in my case, I just grabbed the app image here, the 64-bit app image. But you know, if you're on Windows, you can grab the Windows or the Linux version. This will work the same regardless. The next thing you're gonna need is the Rom set, and I linked you to the latest. Will be at the top. It may not be this one because I think they're continuously adding new ROMs as time goes on. Just grab the zip file. And the next thing you're going to obviously need is FreeDOS. Now, I spent a good chunk of today trying to figure out what was up with... I just could not get FreeDOS to install properly inside of 86box. It would install fine, but then it would hang. It has something to do with the configuration file. But there is a way to get it to work effortlessly, and it is called the Floppy Edition. I was trying to use the Legacy CD, but the Floppy Edition works so much better. So, we'll just go ahead and grab the Floppy Edition. And now I'm just going to go into here, Tools, 86box. Okay, so what you want to do is somewhere make a folder and put your 86box app image, or just extract your 86box zip file if you're on Windows. Make a folder, put everything in there. And then you want to create a ROM folder and just dump and extract all those ROM files because it already has a folder. Or you can just move that folder and then rename it to ROMs, because specifically it looks for a folder called ROMs. If you happen to have a sound font, this is for like MIDI stuff, like Roland emulation, stuff like that. You could, make a folder for sound fonts. Disks, for right now, this is just for FreeDOS. I made a folder for all the floppies, and then you just want to extract these. You can put these anywhere, but it's much easier if everything's kind of all together. And then, of course, the other thing is the hard drive, which in this case is a 2 GB hard drive. Okay, so once you have everything extracted, don't worry about the NVR. It will make this not an issue. It'll make this folder. Okay, so now what you want to do is just launch 86box, and it will launch and it will try. Like, it's already booting into FreeDOS there, but that's okay. We'll just hit settings, and now you get to pick the type of machine that you want. You can make an 8088, an 8086, an 8286, an i386. There's a whole lot of options. But I already have a DOS machine, so I built mine to be a little bit like mine. And now one thing I want to mention is this thing does fairly accurate emulation. So depending on your CPU, you may not be able to properly emulate, a full-fledged, like anything higher than a 486. Like, I think a Pentium 2 requires like a 5960X or something like that. You need quite a lot of horsepower in order to properly emulate some of these older CPUs accurately. One-to-one accuracy requires a fair bit. But we're just going to be using an i486 socket 3. This will give us a wide array of config. It'll give us a lot of option, a lot of wiggle room, and you can even play Quake fairly well with it, so it's not the worst. The next thing is for the machine. I just picked a Sys496, the Asus. It has a fairly standard BIOS that I'm used to, so that's what I picked. For the CPU type, you have quite a lot of options here. I went on ahead and just picked the AM5X86 because that's actually what I have in my DOS machine. But you can pick anything. I do not recommend any of the SX processors. They do not come with an FPU, although you can pick here to have an external one. But if you just want to build the one I have, it's an AM5X86, and then you can pick the P90, the P75, the P75 Plus. I'm going to go ahead and pick the P90. I do not have the P90. I believe in mine it's the P75 Plus, which I think runs 10 megahertz slower, but I'm always on the lookout for the P90. I might get one day. And then for memory, you can set this to anything you like. I just set mine to 64 megabytes just to have a little bit of extra, and it's literally what I have in my DOS machine. So, and then for the display device, this will be your graphics card, and I put that in quotes there. A lot of options here. A lot of options. You can pick a PCI card, and some games may work better on a PCI card, but I don't know how stable all that will be. So I picked a card that I know that works really, really well, and the one that I have, which is the S3 Trio, and I just picked the 64. I just picked the Phoenix version, and then in the configuration, you can set how much memory it has. I just put 4. Really doesn't matter. And for input devices, you just want to pick a standard PS2 mouse, and I configured it with 3 buttons. Sorry. And hit OK. And now for sound. Sound is when it gets kind of crazy because you can pick so many different configurations. Naturally, of course, I have an AW32, so that's what I picked, but I also have a Sound Blaster 16. I highly recommend either the Sound Blaster 16 or the Sound Blaster 16, unless you're trying to emulate some like really old stuff like, you know, Ad Lib or the original Sound Blaster or whatever. Sound Blaster 16, massive amount of support. It will work on basically anything. Same thing for the Sound Blaster AW32. It has Sound Blaster 16 support, so I went ahead and picked it. And then for configuration, some of this stuff is only relevant to the AW32. But for the address, I put it on 220, and then for the IRQ 7, DMA 1, and the high DMA 5. And that is the same configuration that you would find inside of DOSBox, and it's what I also use. And you're getting kind of familiar with this. It's kind of what I use, right? So I already know these, so write this down, or you can come back to it anytime on the off chance you may need the IRQ. And then for onboard RAM, I went ahead and select 28. The default is 512. No game really uses it, but yeah, why not? And then, of course, enable OPL absolutely, and you can just leave everything else the same. For MIDI, you can choose emulation, but I believe you need the ROM files, and I do not know if it comes with the ROM files, but it accurately emulates MIDI really, really well. So I just went on ahead and selected MIDI out, and then I already have a Roland sound font, and you can choose all sorts of different options in here. I just left everything alone. For networking, we're just going to skip that. For ports, we're going to skip it. For the hard drive and the floppy disk controller, just leave it internal. You can change this stuff to all kinds of different configurations if you like. Again, we're just going to skip this. Now for this part's going to be really interesting. We're going to remove my old one, and we're going to click a new one. And we're going to select a fixed size virtual hard drive. And then we're just going to specify in the hard drive folder. And I'm just going to call this YouTube YT DOS for YouTube DOS. And you can pretty much pick any of these. I just like working with the fixed size virtual hard drives. And then for the size, we don't want 10 megabytes. I'm going to pick 2048 for 2 gigabytes. You can also just pick, 2000, whatever you feel like. I'm just picking 2048 because I know it works, and I haven't run into any issues with it, so it works pretty good. And it gives you quite a bit of wiggle room. Now, if you're using MS-DOS, you're probably not going to want to do this because I think MS-DOS is going to cap. You can also pick a custom one over here, any size you like. You can specify everything. It's entirely up to you. Okay, and then we're just going to hit OK here. And it's going to create the disk image for us. And this thing is very useful and very, very nice. I truly like it. Okay. Remember to partition the drive. We'll do that. Now, for the floppy stuff, you're going to want to go through and you're going to want to change all this stuff over to a 1.44 megabyte, 3.5 inch drive and enable turbo timings. The other thing, go back to the hard disk really quick. For the ID, you want to set it to 00. This means it is the master device and it's the first drive. And as well, for the floppy, you want it to be 01. You never want your floppy to be, not your floppy, your CD drive. You never want your CD drive to be the first one because, well, I guess it doesn't matter as much in emulation. It might matter in 86 box, but the reason you used to not want to do that is typically your CD drive was slower than your hard drive. And so if it was first, it would match the speed and then your hard drive would be slower. Not really the case anymore, but really old random tidbit fact as to why you would do that. At least that's what I learned in IT. I mean, by the time I got out of and graduated from that, most people were using SATA, so it really wasn't an issue anymore. And then for everything else, you know, you can change, you can make zip drives and MO drives and stuff like that. You know, we don't really need that. And we're going to hit OK, and then we'll just save the emulation settings, and then it's going to reboot. And then we're just going to get this where it says this boot failure. Press enter. And so down here or up here under media, we are going to select an existing image. And then we're going to go into disks, floppy. We're going to select the floppy drive and then just hit enter. And this part is going to take a while, so I'm actually going to pause at certain points here. So we're just select English. Then we're going to wait, because seriously, this part can actually take. Also, if you're tabbing back and forth and it doesn't, like, you can't type, hit Alt. Do you wish to proceed? Yes, we wish to proceed. Automatically partition the drive. Can't remember. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's doing this. Okay, we want to reboot, okay? Gonna reboot here. This part will take a while. Installing through the floppy takes quite some time. Like, quite a lot of time, actually. Like, But the good news is that this properly is a full-fledged DOS operating system. You want to format the drive? Yes, I do. Thank you very much. I do wish to format. Test in the file system. Okay. So how I'm going to do this next part is will show you how to switch the drive and then the next drive. And then from there, because it really and truly, it's just switching floppy drives. It's truly not very difficult. After the first one, though, it is not named appropriately. So just remember which order you're in. And besides, when you hit enter anyway, it'll just, you know, ask you again to put the drive. So just make sure you put the right drive in and then just hit enter. It's 100% automatic. You don't have to do anything at all except wait. It is a very, very long wait. It'll probably take 20 minutes to install FreeDOS this week. Not even kidding. It can be quite slow. See it go. Okay, I'm going to pause this, and we'll be back as soon as it asks for the next one. Okay, and we're back. So this actually didn't end up taking as long if you're paying attention to the timestamp. I stepped away for a second. It's not that slow. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll select an existing image, and we will select the next one there, and we'll just hit enter. Okay, and I will see you guys in the next one. It won't do anything here, but I assure you... Oh, there it goes. Yeah, see? It's doing stuff. Just give it a moment. Okay, so now we need to put in disk 2, and we'll just put in disk 2. I know it doesn't say disk 2, but trust me, that's what it's asking for. And there we go. Now we just wait for the next one. Okay, and now I believe we're on the third image. Awesome. Now we just need to insert the fourth disk. Off we go yet again. Okay, and now we are on the final disk. Hit enter there. Perfect. All right, near the home stretch. We're, finally getting there. Okay, and as you can see, we are done. We have finally succeeded in conquering the craziness. So we just want to tell it to reboot, and then we just want to eject the floppy, and because we don't want any of those floppies in, and then it will boot. Then if everything goes okay, we'll see this menu here. Now these are for different memory controllers. GemX is what FreeDOS uses, and it's pretty nice. FreeDOS with GemX, this one is more compatible. I'll just use this one as it's the default, and everything works fine. So it'll take a minute. As you can see, it went through, but the cute mouse driver works. And we're done. We are now fully inside of FreeDOS. It's loaded. We can type edit to load the FreeDOS editor. And you can hit Control End. It says at the top, but you can hit Control End. So let's just go on ahead and, whew, that's fast. I need to fix that on some end. Hopefully somewhere there's a way to fix that. So I already have a CD in, and it's in drive D. Now, you can add other hard drives, quite a lot, actually. It'll depend on the different motherboard and if you have an external hard drive controller or anything like that, but you can add others. But I recommend keeping the CD-ROM drive on drive D. That way, when you install it, a lot of games have config files that look straight at D, for example. Yeah, it does not like that. But that's okay. Anyway, we'll do CD. No, sorry. We'll do D : and then we go. And then, yep, just do a quick dir, and you can see that this is just literally all I did was copy mine and convert it to an ISO and then just mount it. It works. If it works, it works. And we'll just run Quake, and we're just doing this just to make sure that everything works and it's there. We're not going to do any setting up or anything with it. And this version doesn't have the CD. I don't have the CD. Ideally, what you would want to do is install it with the CD so you get the nice, lovely music by Trent. But let's see. Let's load a map, because I know I have one of my custom maps in here. And the other thing is, let's make sure the mouse actually does work. Let's do a +M look. And I'll just lock the mouse. And yeah, it works. We can maneuver around, and you can see that the lighting data is all here, and even have my nice little sun shadows and everything. It's very nice. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Everything is, here, and it works, and it's incredible. So, thanks for watching, everyone. This is how you install FreeDOS inside of 86 box, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff. I intend to do tutorials later which cover how to install the networking drivers and set up networking, so you can access the internet, or maybe a BBS, pretty much anything really that you would like to use. And of course, the other thing is I also want to do a tutorial for Windows 3.1 install, but that will require a MS-DOS, or you have to patch FreeDOS, but we're just going to use Microsoft DOS for that. But another thing that I want to note about this, since this is FreeDOS, you do have long file name support, I believe. I believe LFN. Sorry, I don't know why I typed in LFN. But FreeDOS has long file name support. You don't get it. I can't get it to work under DOSBox, but it does work under 86 box, which is very, very useful. Actually, we can test and see if it works. That should be more than long enough. Yep, I think so. Hang on. I'm just gonna make a rather long thing there. Yes, it does, or at least it shortens it down. I'm not 100% sure which it is. But FreeDOS does have it, though you may have to edit the FD auto file in order to get it to work. But it should work. It should be working. Free up my mouse. Sorry for the beep. So, thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this video, like it, share it around, subscribe for more. And if you have any problems or anything, just message in the comments below or click the description and go to the forum topic, make an account, and you can post there, and I'll offer any help. And I will see you guys in the next one.